Welcome to Everything's an Illusion, the podcast where we slow down, ask better questions, and take a closer look at the stories we've been taught to accept as reality.
And sometimes we poke those stories with a stick just to see what falls apart.
I'm Amethyst.
And I'm Mavic.
Today, we're talking about money, gold, debt, interest, and a system where the numbers never quite add up.
Because at some point, you start to notice something weird. No matter how hard everyone works, no matter how much is borrowed, paid, or printed.
There is never enough.
And tonight, we're not here to panic you.
We're here to walk through the math,
Slowly, calmly.
so you can decide for yourself,
Whether the system is broken.
or whether it was built this way on purpose.
Welcome to Everything's an Illusion.
Before we start, we want to be clear about something. What we're about to talk about isn't fringe theory, and it isn't speculation. It's how modern money actually works, whether people like it or not.
Yeah, this isn't a grab your tinfoil hat episode. This is a why does the math never add up episode.
We're talking about gold, fiat currency, debt, and interest, and why, under the current system, there is no mathematical way for all debt to ever be paid off.
Not unlikely, not hard, impossible.
Let's start with gold, because that's where most people feel safest. Gold feels solid, tangible, real. For most of modern history, money was tied, at least partially, to gold. The idea was simple. Every dollar represented a claim on a real physical asset stored somewhere. But even during the gold standard, this wasn't fully true. Banks were already issuing more paper claims than they had gold to back them. This was called fractional backing. It worked as long as not everyone tried to redeem their dollars for gold at the same time.
Which, historically, never ends well.
Exactly. As economies grew, populations expanded, industries scaled, global trade increased, the amount of money needed to function grew far faster than the amount of gold being mined. Gold grows slowly. Economies don't. By the mid-20th century, there were already far more dollars in circulation than could ever be redeemed for gold. This wasn't a secret. Governments knew it, banks knew it, central banks knew it.
Yeah, and we were told not to worry about it.
In 1971, the U.S. officially ended gold convertibility. From that point forward, the dollar became fiat currency, which means its value is not tied to a physical commodity. Its value is tied to confidence, enforcement, and debt.
So, when people say, money used to be real, that's half true?
At best, even when gold was involved, the system relied on trust, not full backing. Once the trust could no longer be maintained, the gold had to go. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Even if we wanted to go back to gold today, we couldn't. There simply isn't enough gold on Earth to back modern economies at current scales. Not even close.
All right, quick pause. This episode is sponsored by Dubby. And before we go any further, let's just put this out there plainly. She's the one who would need the energy.
That's fair.
Let's be frank. If I used an energy drink, I'd be running around the studio like a caffeinated chipmunk, not stopping to breathe, talking at double speed, knocking over microphones. No one wants that.
True. And for full transparency, I haven't personally used Dubby. Not because of the product itself, but because I have an allergy to artificial sweeteners. So we're not going to pretend otherwise.
Yeah, no fake, this changed my life monologue. That's not how we do things here.
What we can speak to honestly is what Dubby is designed for. Dubby is a gaming-focused energy drink made for people who want sustained energy and focus without sugar crashes, which is why it's popular with gamers, streamers, and people doing long creative or mental sessions.
Basically, people who need energy without the drink it and regret it spiral.
It's clearly not for everyone, especially people with ingredient sensitivities. But for people who already know artificial sweeteners work fine for them, it fills a specific niche.
And if you're the kind of person who actually reads labels and decides for yourself instead of trusting marketing hype, you're already doing it right.
If Dubby does fit your needs, you can use our coupon code StarlitHeart for 10% off your order.
That's Starlit Heart. StarlitHeart. One word. And just to be clear, if I had that kind of energy boost, we'd never finish an episode. Not because I'd be loud, but because I wouldn't stop talking. So this sponsorship is probably for the people who actually need the energy, not the guy who restrains himself from caffeine for your listening benefit. Now, back to the show.
Most people believe money is created by governments printing it. That's not how it works. The majority of money is created through loans. When a bank issues a loan, it doesn't hand out existing money. It creates new money digitally, numbers on a ledger. That loan becomes part of the money supply.
So money is born as debt.
Yes, every new dollar enters the system already owing more than itself. Because while the bank creates the principal, it does not create the interest.
And there it is, the part nobody wants to talk about.
Let's make this simple. If a bank loans out $100, there is now $100 in existence. But the borrower owes $100 plus interest. That interest does not exist in the system yet. The only way to get it is for someone else to borrow more money. This means that total debt always exceeds total money. Always. No exception.
Which means if everyone tried to pay everything off at once,
There wouldn't be enough money to do it, even in theory.
that's not a bug. That's the design.
Correct. This is why economists say the system requires constant expansion. New loans must always be created to service old debt. Growth isn't optional, it's mandatory. There's a common analogy that explains this perfectly. A traveler borrows $100 from 3 different people. Each expects $110 back. Total money created, $300. Total money owed, $330. There is no way to pay back the $330 unless new money is created, which means new debt. The original debt can never fully close.
So someone must lose.
Or more accurately, someone must stay indebted. When politicians talk about paying off the national debt, they're not talking about a real possibility. They're talking about optics. Because government debt is not just debt. It's the foundation of the financial system.
Treasuries are considered safe assets.
Exactly. Pension funds, banks, foreign governments, they all rely on that debt existing. Eliminate it, and the system collapses.
So if this feels like an illusion, yeah, that's because it is.
Not because people are evil.
That's debatable.
Not because there's a secret cabal pulling strings. But because the system itself is built on mathematical impossibility. Debt that can never fully be repaid. Money that only exists through borrowing. Interest that guarantees permanent imbalance. Before we close this out, I want to talk about something important. Because once you understand how money actually works now, the question becomes, how should it work? So let's strip everything down to the simplest version possible. Imagine there is one single dollar in a small town. I pay you that dollar for a service. You take that same dollar and pay the farmer you owe. The farmer takes that dollar and pays the mechanic. The mechanic takes that dollar and pays the shop owner. And eventually, that dollar makes its way back to me. That $1 just paid multiple people, multiple debts, without growing, without interest, without scarcity. No one needed more money. The money just moved.
So the value wasn't in the amount, it was in the circulation.
Exactly. This is what economists call the velocity of money, how often a unit of currency changes hands. When money circulates freely, it doesn't need to multiply endlessly. It just needs to flow. In this model, debt actually ends, because every dollar can complete the circle.
And nobody's trapped waiting for money that doesn't exist yet.
Right. Now here's the key difference. In that simple system, the dollar is not born as debt. There's no interest attached to it. No requirement that more money be created later just to close the loop. The same dollar can settle multiple obligations without leaving anyone short.
Which is the opposite of what we have now.
Yes, in our current system, money doesn't circulate freely. It's intercepted by interest, fees, and accumulation. The dollar doesn't complete the circle. It gets siphoned off, which means someone, somewhere, is always left unpaid, unless new debt is created.
So instead of money being a tool for exchange,
It becomes a leash. Instead of helping people trade value, it forces permanent imbalance.
that $1 story sounds almost obvious.
It is, and that's why it's so uncomfortable, because it shows that scarcity isn't natural, it's engineered. Not because people are lazy or unworthy, but because the system no longer allows money to finish the loop.
And once you see that,
You understand why the game never ends. And when you understand why the game never ends, you also start to notice what happens when it can't keep going the way it has. Because systems like this don't usually collapse with a headline. They unravel in stages, quietly enough that most people only notice it in their own lives first.
yeah, it doesn't show up as the system is failing. It shows up as, why is everything harder than it was 5 years ago?
The first sign is simple. People work more, but their lives don't actually improve. Paychecks go up on paper, but rent, food, insurance, utilities go up faster. So effort increases. Outcome doesn't.
That's the part that never gets explained. You're told the economy is doing great, but somehow you need 2 incomes to afford what 1 income used to cover.
Debt is supposed to be short-term, something you pass through. But in strained systems, debt becomes permanent. People stop asking when they'll be done paying things off, and start asking which payments they can survive skipping.
And then we're told that's a personal budgeting issue, not a math issue, not a structural issue. Just somehow everyone mismanaged money at the same time.
Another sign is when prices rise independently of value, not because things are better, not because quality improved, but because the system needs more money moving through it, even if nothing changed.
That's when you start paying more for less and being told it's normal. Smaller portions, cheaper materials, higher bills. Same explanation every time. It's complicated.
Short-term solutions become long-term policy. Emergency measures stay in place. Exceptions become the rule. And the system survives, not by healing, but by stretching.
That's starting to sound a lot like now.
Eventually, maintaining confidence becomes more important than fixing the problem. So messaging tightens, language softens, and questioning starts sounding like disruption.
That's when you notice who's allowed to panic and who isn't. Markets can panic. Institutions can panic. People? They're told to stay calm.
And this is the most important part. People feel something is wrong long before it's officially acknowledged. Not because they understand economics, but because the system stops working in real life.
When doing everything right still doesn't work, that's not confusion. That's pattern recognition.
Collapse doesn't usually mean everything disappears overnight. More often, it looks like instability becoming normal, rules changing mid-game, and responsibility shifting downward.
Never upward.
We're not saying this to scare anyone. Awareness doesn't cause collapse. Ignoring structural limits doesn't prevent it.
The warning signs aren't hidden. They're just inconvenient.
And that's where we'll leave it.
If this episode made you pause, good. That's kind of the point.
Thanks for spending this time with us.
And before we go, quick reminder, today's sponsor was Dubby. If it's something that works for you, you can use the code STARLITHEART for 10% off.
As always, read labels, know your body, and decide for yourself.
Until next time, this has been Everything's an Illusion.